Welcome to the Atheists in Recovery podcast, where we talk about finding hope in recovery. And now your host, Dr. Adina Silvestri.
Hola guys, and welcome to episode 55 of the Atheists in Recovery podcast. And today is really a solo episode, and it's a short episode. I wanted to talk about my August pause and my 1-year podcast anniversary musings, what this podcast has become and where I started from versus where I am today. And so let's just get started. Today, well, as all of you know that have been listening to the podcast, is the start of the August pause. And so I'm taking a break from podcasting in August to focus on self-care and to maybe even get, dare I say, a bit ahead with the podcast. In the meantime, you may also want to catch up on episodes 1 through 54, maybe re-listen to a couple of your favorite episodes. While on August pause, I encourage you to continue reading, writing, listening to content and stories through the podcast that nourishes you, that nourishes your soul. That takes you to a deeper level. So that's it for the August pause. I also want to mention that although weekly podcasting for 12 months is a great goal, it's not sustainable. And so I'm going to be scheduling more pauses, and this is subject to change, obviously, but the idea is that I will be working on the podcast 9 months out of the year and taking off April, August, and December. All right, let's talk a little bit about my 1-year anniversary. So that happened, I guess, 2 weeks ago, as I record this, and it went fast. We hit the 1-year anniversary, and the podcast addresses, for those of you that are unfamiliar, it addresses spiritual and scientific belief systems of people in long-term recovery in order to deconstruct their limiting thought patterns and introduce new behaviors and routines you can use. And so it is a guest-based podcast. I do invite guests on. I do also like to do solo episodes because I like them. I like that they're short and sweet, and I can share something that I've learned in the field that hopefully you'll find helpful. And the podcast hopefully is informational. I mean, that's the goal. It's sometimes humorous, depending on if you like dry humor. And it's also going to be an ongoing conversation. You know, I don't claim to have the answers. My guests don't claim to have all the answers, but I hope that it provides a little solace and hope and healing throughout your recovery. Let's talk about the title, okay? The title, Atheists in Recovery. So it confuses people, and I get it. I talk more about spirituality and religion and finding your higher power than I talk about atheism. And that's for good reason. This podcast wasn't created based on my belief system. I created this podcast for my clients. And people would come up to me and say, you know, I can't go to AA. I can't do the God thing. I found you on the internet. You don't seem woo-woo. It doesn't seem like you practice AA. You seem like you do a lot of other sort of out-of-the-box things. And they were right. I don't preach AA is the only way. It can't be. You guys know that. It can't be. And so that's like saying there's only one way to treat diabetes. We know that that's never going to work. Each person has just individual traits and personalities and stories. It would just never work that way. And so that's why I created the Atheists in Recovery podcast. It was for my clients and their belief systems. And do I think that they're hardcore atheists? No, I don't. I don't believe they're hardcore atheists. So the title is perhaps misleading, but the tagline, guys, is right on. You know, everyone believes in something. I feel like that is what I talk about the most in recovery. I mean, I have people coming on that do believe in God. I have people coming on that believe that God spelled backwards is their God. Dog is their God. I have people come on that are just everything in between atheist and answering to a God, right? A higher power. And so I think that title, the title could be misleading, but the tagline, come on, guys, you got to give me credit there. So I come from this framework that I believe that individuals have the answers. They know what they need in order to get better. And so I support that. And then also, the scientist in me believes in a higher power. I believe in a future self. I believe that when you're struggling and you just don't know where to turn, when the going gets tough, you have to separate from your ego. You have to have that separation. You have to know that there's something else that's larger than you. I see it all the time. And that's when the breakouts happen for my guys. And so, when I ask them to have self-compassion, when I ask them to look deep inside, they're calling on their dead grandmother. They're calling on their best friend who died, or, their mother. They're calling on individuals that have their best interest in mind. The thinking that got us to where we are isn't going to be the thinking that gets us out. And so, I have to have that in the podcast. I have to talk about that. So hopefully this makes sense. Hole in the Soul. I want to share this very brief poem by William Cope Moyers, and let me know what you think. Okay. I was born with what I like to call a hole in my soul, a pain that came from the reality that I just wasn't good enough, that I wasn't deserving enough, that you weren't paying attention to me all the time, that maybe you didn't like me enough. For us addicts, recovery is more than just taking a pill or maybe getting a shot. Recovery is also about the spirit, about dealing with that hole in the soul. And so wherever you find belonging, wherever you find your people, maybe it's in AA, maybe it's in a secular version of AA. Maybe it's in SMART. Maybe it's you just grab a bunch of people that are in recovery and you guys meet for coffee each week. It doesn't matter, but you need that. You need that support. You need to find your people. It's going to make this journey so much easier. Well, so that's a short version of what I think about the title. And year one was exciting. Year one, we've had so many guests on. Again, you could sort of scroll through episodes 1 through 54. We've had people on that wrote about their memoirs, people on that talk about creativity in recovery, how to find your higher power in recovery, mindfulness in recovery, people that were new to recovery and how to survive those first 4 weeks. I had some people on from where I live, from Virginia, and that was also very nice to have some of my friends on that are really killing it in the addiction field. And so for year 2, as we kind of wrap up today's episode, I have no idea what I'm doing in year 2, but I hope you'll keep listening. I want to do another podcast takeover. I think that was so much fun, a lot of work, but so much fun. I also want to have some more creative individuals on, maybe talking about how to write your story and what that looks like. And if you have ideas for future podcast episodes, make it easy on me and email me. Email me. You could find my contact info at atheistsInrecovery.com and just hit any of the yellow buttons or the contact page will help you out. And hopefully my belief system doesn't deter you from continuing to listen. Would it help you to know that my belief system changes and evolves on a very regular basis? Does that help you or deter you? I'm not sure. But I constantly am open to other people's belief systems and continuously challenging mine. I'm always searching, guys. And so I hope you continue to listen to the podcast and subscribe. And if you're subscribing, thank you. If not, why the hell not? I'm kidding. You can subscribe via iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, any of the podcast platforms. Just go on that page to search. Well, first search for Atheists in Recovery and then hit the subscribe button on those pages. Okay, guys, I will see you in a month. Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Atheists in Recovery podcast. For more great info and to stay up to date, head over to atheistsandrecovery.com.